Though Michael loved me deeply, when he was deceived by Ruby's lies, he lost the ability to distinguish right from wrong. He believed that I had killed his grandfather for the inheritance and that I had slept with other men and was pregnant with that man's child, so he cruelly subjected me to humiliation again and again. When he personally pushed me into the abyss, all the love turned to ashes, never to return in this lifetime. Take it off. 0711 Step forward. The prison hall was brightly lit at night. Over 300 female inmates in identical uniforms stood silently. Inmate number 1174 Arya stared at the gynecological examination table in front of her, her body trembling with fear. No, I don't want an exam. Take off your clothes. You're pregnant. This is a routine daily checkup. It's also Mr. Smith's orders, the female guard said expressionlessly the moment she heard Mr. Smith. Arya trembled even harder. Michael, he was merciless. It had been 6 months. Was he still not done humiliating her every single day for the past 6 months? She was forced to strip naked in front of all the female prisoners and guards. Then, shamefully, she would lie on that examination table, spread her legs, and allow the doctor to touch her from chest to bottom while everyone watched. No, I want to see Michael. I want to see him. If he doesn't come, I won't do the checkup. Instead of stepping forward, Arya backed away. The cold examination table looked like a monster, ready to devour every last shred of her dignity. Every time she was examined, she felt crushed into the dust. If it weren't for the child, if it weren't for finding out who framed her, she would have long given up on living. Arya, this prison is Mr. Smith's doing. You think just because you want to see him, he'll come running? Keep dreaming. Take off your clothes. Hurry up. Or do you want us to help you undress? The other inmates in the holding area stared at her with gleaming eyes, excitement written all over their faces. Arya trembled even more violently. She had resisted once before, and they had swarmed her. Not only was she stripped naked, but the women had pinched and twisted her all over. She couldn't go through that again. She would rather die. Clenching her eyes shut, Arya turned and charged toward the wall. Stop her, the guard shouted. Crash. Several inmates rushed over and grabbed her uniform without hesitation. Suddenly, a warm wetness spread beneath her. Fluid flowed down her legs. Arya's face turned pale. And my water broke. I'm going into labor. The guard glanced at the blood and fluid on the floor. Premature labor, not her problem. All right, show's over. Everyone back to your rooms. Arya's eyes widened. Go back to her cell like this, alone. She grabbed the guard's arm. Tell Michael, this is his child. If anything happens to the baby, he won't forgive you. That got the guard's attention. She clearly panicked. Fine, go back to your cell and wait. Whether the child lives or dies, Mr. Smith will decide. Stumbling back to her cell, pain tearing through her abdomen, sweat poured down Arya's face. She barely made it to the wooden bed before something slipped out of her with a rush. A baby. She gave birth. Arya looked over with joy. The premature baby, wrinkled and small, looked just like her. Bang, the cell door swung open. Michael walked in with a cold expression. Who gave you permission to give birth? Arya froze. Michael, look at her. She's your flesh and blood. What's this then? Michael flung a photo and a report at her. Without another word, he picked up the newborn and took a wet white cloth from the guard behind him. He covered the baby's tiny face. In an instant, the baby stopped breathing, only air going out, none coming in. Fed to the Tibetan Mastiff. No, Arya's face was pale. Her body, still weak after giving birth, had no strength left, yet she still struggled desperately to get off the bed and snatch her daughter back from Michael's hands. With just a glance from Michael, the female guard stepped forward and pinned Arya down. She was completely immobilized, forced to watch with tears in her eyes. Even a vicious tiger doesn't eat its cubs. She's your biological daughter. How could you be so cruel to her? Michael cast a contemptuous glance at the baby and sneered. Is she really mine? She is, of course. Before Arya could finish, Michael interrupted coldly. Whether she is or not, I wouldn't dare keep a child born from a vicious woman like you. Hearing vicious woman, Arya was momentarily stunned, then realized he was referring to the accusation that she had pushed his grandfather down the stairs. She watched helplessly as her baby, so tiny, so fragile, barely had the strength to struggle anymore. Her cries were growing weaker and weaker. Arya's heart shattered. She hurried to explain. I didn't push him. The child is yours. Michael, you have to believe me. Michael, only believe in evidence. He glanced at the photos and reports he had thrown at Arya earlier. Arya quickly picked them up, only to freeze when she saw the big bold words on the DNA report. No. Biological relation. Her eyes widened in disbelief. How can this be? She's clearly yours. There must be some mistake. I watched the doctor draw the blood myself. The test is accurate. This little bastard. She deserves to die. Michael's eyes glinted with cruelty as he tightened the white cloth over the baby's face. The baby's cries weakened further. What began as tiny kicks and struggling hands was now reduced to faint whimpers. No, don't. Arya suddenly exploded in desperation, breaking free from the female guard in a frenzy. She fell to the ground with a thud and crawled to Michael's feet. Michael, she really is yours. I beg you, please, just let her live. You should have thought of that when you were cheating on me, when you pushed my grandfather. This is what you deserve. His voice was ice. No, no. Arya tried to grab the baby, but suddenly the infant's little leg twitched, then fell still. Her cries stopped altogether. The room went silent. Under the white cloth, the baby's tiny mouth, which had still been faintly breathing, no longer moved. Arya stared at the child in horror, but Michael hadn't finished his cruelty. He kicked Arya aside, then turned and tossed the dead baby to one of his men outside. Throw her in the cage, feed her to the Tibetan Mastiff. A loud bark rang out from outside. Arya's mind was filled with horrifying images of her baby being torn to shreds by the dogs. Her daughter, barely born, had been smothered by her own father, and now, fed to the dogs, her body went limp, covered in blood as she passed out. Michael left the room and walked to the yard. In the dog cage in the yard was just a doll in the shape of a baby. It was precisely the fake baby whom he had just tried to strangle in the room. His assistant brought over a sleeping baby. The assistant asked, what should we do with Arya's child? Looking at the baby's cute appearance, Michael's face showed a look of fondness. He thought to himself how wonderful it would be if this child were his own. After a long silence, he asked the assistant to send the baby to an orphanage and instructed that the little baby must be taken good care of. When she woke, dawn had already arrived. Arya lay on the floor of a bedroom. She struggled to lift her eyes and realized this was the old master's room, which is also Grandpa Michael's room. A nurse was performing emergency treatment on the the old man. I didn't push him, my baby. Arya's voice trembled. The image of her daughter being smothered and thrown to the dogs flashed through her mind. Her gaze turned hollow as she stared blankly at the bed. You're awake, a woman's voice asked coldly as she walked over. It was a nurse, one hired after the old man was paralyzed. Back then, Arya had already been sent to prison by Michael. Who are you? The woman strode over, then suddenly grabbed Arya's disheveled hair and yanked hard. Who I am isn't your concern, but since you harmed Michael's grandfather, you don't deserve to be his wife. Why haven't you agreed to the divorce yet? It hurts. Arya instinctively tried to pull away. Her scalp felt like it was about to be torn off. That hurts. Oh, there's worse coming, the woman sneered, pulling a thin needle from her pocket and driving it straight into Arya's arm. Such despicable deceit. The long needle pierced into her flesh, sending a searing, bone-deep pain through Arya's body, snapping her into full awareness. Who are you? I've never wronged you. Why are you doing this to me? To Arya. This woman was a complete stranger, so why was she tormenting her like this? She was completely baffled. Because you pushed the old man down the stairs, of course. Ha ha ha. The woman stood arrogantly looking down at Arya, who was curled up in pain, trembling all over. Michael left you here to repent before the old man. Since you're awake, go kneel by his bedside. I won't. I want to see Michael. Arya struggled to get to her feet. She had just given birth to her daughter, not even fully out of the danger of postpartum complications, and she should have been resting in a soft bed, caring for her newborn. Instead, Michael had thrown her unconscious body onto a cold floor in a room without even a blanket. The thought of her daughter pierced her heart like a blade. Michael, he was a butcher, a monster. He would rot in hell. The woman glanced at her wristwatch and gave a small, smug smile. All right, once you've knelt before the old man, I'll go call Michael. Without thinking much, Arya stumbled to the old man's bedside. The patriarch was still unconscious, his body paralyzed, and her heart ached as she looked at him. But just like her, he was a victim too. She didn't push him. Now that she was back, she was determined to uncover the truth. She had to find out who really pushed the old man down the stairs. Thinking back carefully, only 3 people were in the villa that day. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't figure out who the real culprit was. But one thing she was sure of: just as the old man was pushed, she had happened to step out of a room, and that coincidence had framed her in Michael's eyes as the culprit. Grandfather, I didn't push you. Please wake up. Please tell